Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar entitled Surveys in Trademark Litigation. Today we'll talk about how survey research can help in cases involving intellectual property and other types of litigation, and address some of the keys to a successful survey. But before we jump in too far, let's start with some introductions. So my name is Jackie Chorn, and I'm a Senior Manager and Survey Expert at Applied Marketing Science, and I work on the litigation support practice. So in my roles at the company, I design and serve as a testifying expert for consumer perception surveys that span secondary meaning, likelihood of confusion, and also advertising cases. And I also develop research to help substantiate advertising claims. So I'm joined by my colleague, Marcello Santana, another senior manager in our litigation support practice.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. As Jackie said, my name is Marcello Santana. I'm a senior manager in the litigation support practice at Applied Marketing Science, and I have extensive experience managing quantitative and qualitative market research projects, which all relate to litigation, and most of the matters in litigation involve trademark and trade dress confusion, trademark dilution, deceptive advertising, patent infringement, class certification, just to name a few. We work on a whole myriad of projects. So before we jump in too far, I just also want to mention that our attendee microphones, they're on mute to minimize noise. So just hoping that everybody can hear clearly without any feedback or echoes. And and we will take questions though at the end. So I'd encourage you to submit questions by typing them into the chat window on the right side of your screen. So moving onward, here's the agenda for today. First, I'm going to give a brief overview on the history of surveys being introduced as evidence in courts. And then I'm going to move on and discuss different applications for surveys in litigation. After that, I'm going to cover the critical issues that should be considered when designing a survey, and then follow up on with some steps on how to conduct a survey from beginning to end. After covering all that material, I'll pass it back over to Jackie to discuss several cases where surveys were introduced as evidence and helped clients. And then once Jackie's done, we'll finish up the presentation by talking about some of the benefits of using a survey, as well as the economics costs behind conducting one. And finally, we'll finish up the presentation by just providing a quick summary. So first off, I just want to provide a quick overview on the history of surveys being used in litigation. And it dates back to about 50 years ago. So roughly 50 years ago, the question of whether surveys were considered acceptable evidence was basically still unsettled. And early doubts about the admissibility of surveys, it centered around the concern over a survey's use of sampling, as well as their status as hearsay. But then in 1975, Federal Rule of Evidence 703 clarified the issue by redirecting the attention of admissibility to the validity of the techniques employed. And under Rule 703, the inquiry focuses on whether survey data are of a type reasonably relied upon by experts in the particular field, informing opinions or inferences upon the subject. So what that means is that the key criteria in assessing admissibility of a survey is whether it was conducted in accordance with generally accepted survey principles and whether the results were used in a statistically correct way. So now, since 1975, both federal, state courts, the NAD, the TTAB, some other forums have accepted surveys as evidence on a variety of legal issues. And over time through case law, different survey formats have been developed for specific legal claims. But even though those formats exist, right, it still takes a lot of effort to develop a quality survey to the point where survey experts need to work hand in hand and alongside litigators to meet both not only the market research standards, but also legal standards.